Welcome back to Barrel Brothers, where this week we're doing sort of sunny stuff, but what's under the cloth? Stay tuned. So we're finally back onto the A15. Had a little bit of fun sort of gathering bits and pieces for it. As you can see here, it's starting to go back together. We've got a pile of bits over here to go back on, and gaskets, and we've got to do some valve springs in the head, amongst other things. And there's bits and pieces here that some of which we've already put on, as you can see. This one I got off a guy, like for the life of me I cannot remember his name. It looked to be in very good condition, for the simple reason is once I pulled it apart you could still actually see the hone marks in the cylinders, so that's pretty good. The problem with the A15s is they have a low compression, they have very heavy flywheel, like 9.2 kilos I think we weighed it out at. They are built as like for the Nissan Vanette, so a lugger, but to be torquey, they're fairly low compression, have big dish pistons in it. So I went to talk to Stuart Wilkins about it. He said, he sort of rattled off all the things that were wrong with the A15, and so I said, oh, it's not a good engine then. And he said, no, it's a great little engine. All you got to do is this, 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 and this. All right, what does that consist of? Let me get my pointer. Well, let's start off with what an A15 actually is. Basically, it's a tarted up A12. Prince got a hold of them. They started off as 1,000. They went to the 1,200. These have got a lot of mains in them, 4 or 5 mains now, main bearings. We could just turn it over and have a look, couldn't we? Main bearings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's why you can rev the snot out of them. And they suffer no ill effects. We'll get that back around the right way up. They got the A12 and they did that. To do that, they actually had to move, but they moved the distributor to halfway up here. That was the A12. Then for the A14, what they basically did was bore them out to give it that extra 200cc, and that gave them the A14. Now for the A15, they basically took an A14 and stroked it. So it's got a longer stroke and a larger bore than the A14, and they changed the gudgeon height on the pistons, which makes for a happy little accident. U-Butte little A15 here has the same bore as an A14. Now these are the original bores. This hasn't been rebuilt because it didn't need it. So Stuart Wilkins Motorsport, found me some A14 pistons. He said, look, here's the hot setup. If you get a bit of a balance, which we've done. If you get some A14 pistons and machine the top 2.5mm off the top of them, that gives you 10.5 to 1 compression. Well, as you notice, that's not quite at top dead center at the moment, but it's close to it. So as you can see, it comes right up, gives you a good amount of squish. Put a decent cam into it, which we have done. There's the specs for it. So it's basically what you call a 3770 cam. So we've got this Kamiari adjustable cam wheel too. Now I put the cam in already. We've got new cam followers are in there. I haven't put the chain tensioner on yet. Talking to my mate Isaac, who's my guitar luthier, and is also knowledgeable in a lot of things. Had a look at the cam specs, because he's got a brain that works like this, and he said, oh, you should run that about 2 degrees advanced. How you can tell that from cam specs, I don't know, but he's got one of those brains. That's how it works. So yeah, so I've got to dial in about 2.5 degrees on it. I degreed it in already with this little chap here. Number one piston at top dead center, and then we sorted out the cam from there. We've got the cam, and then we've got the degree, and we've got 10.5 to 1 compression. We've got a 3770 cam. We have our H89 head, which has obviously had the ports tickled up on it. And the H89 head is the gun head, according to all the Datsun people. It comes on the A15. It's just they have bigger ports and they've got bigger valves. You'll see these ports are all oval. Whereas the A12, and they're quite a bit bigger too, the A12 ones are round. The inlet manifold and everything that we made for it is port matched to this head. We built it on this head, so it's all ready to go. So at the moment it's coming up big and then going into a small port. And we got quite a bit of extra power there. So yeah, it's obviously running pretty well. I've got to come up with some sort of a gadget to put my double valve springs on. This came with the engine. So the gentleman I bought it off, I think he pulled it out and he was going to do a couple of things. He's got a couple of leaky freeze plugs, notably that one there and this one just in around here, which is those two. So he's obviously going to do that. Then he changed his mind and put a CA18 in his little ute or sedan or 1200, whatever he had. And I lucked out and got this little gem here, the A15. So 300 extra cc's, chunky cam and quite a bit more compression. We've got all the ancillaries to work it now. You know, I've got a mate of mine, George, keeps looking under my bonnet at the R3 and going, mate, you can support like 2,000 horsepower with this thing. Or 500 horsepower. And we've got 35. So we're looking to go up from 35. And it's surprising, like the 35, it's really nice in traffic now. It punts along really well. But I think it's going to punt along quite a bit better with this little bloke in it. I haven't put one of these together. What I am doing is I've watched a couple of videos on how on the YouTubes, which is a really good platform, by the way, I've heard, so on how to put these back together. So I've been following those. I've got a big long list of torque settings. So the old torque wrench is getting a bit of a workout. So yeah, I haven't put an engine together since I was probably 19. Which was a grey motor and an EK Holden, which had twin Strombergs and extractors. And yes, I was 19 when I did that. So what, 5 years ago? If you believe that, you want to buy a watch? All right, so yeah, I'm oiling everything up and watching videos, and we'll slowly put this thing together. And then when we're ready to go, it's basically a case of the A12 coming out and the A15 going in. And then we've got to retune it all. But the R3, Howtech R3, makes it easy, makes it really easy. I'm basically doing a little bit of work of this on the weekends. I'm just about to bugger off now. I've got to go out and take my daughter out to dinner. But I will be back tomorrow morning, and I might just do a time-lapsey deal of me working on it because, you know, I haven't put one of these together. I've had a couple of people ask whether I'm going to actually paint it. And the answer is no, because as you can see, it's got a bit of a crusty look to it, you know. It's got some dents and little bits and pieces and a little bit of rust. That's the whole theme, really, is to keep it a bit crusty looking and have all the good stuff hidden on the inside. It's a bit difficult to hide that. That's not too bad, but this is a bit hard to hide. That's only when you open the bonnet, isn't it? And it's when you open the bonnet, okay, it's got some fancy, you say you don't, you know, the engine's not bright bloody blue in the engine bay, yeah. The biggest help I've had, which I'm watching as we go, for putting this together is a nice South African gentleman by the name of Carburetor Rebuild Service, because he goes right through putting one of these together, which is ideal. Time for the water pump to go on. Now, the hot setup, from what I've been able to glean, is for higher RPM, the cast ones are the better ones. And we have one here that is not leaking. So it's the original one off the engine. Could be in aftermarket, I don't know. I can't really see it. Give it a bit of a clean up, and that's going back onto the car. And just to let you know, I should have actually said this at the start. I'm not a mechanic. I'm just an interested amateur. And I enjoy doing this stuff, you know. So yeah, if you want, look up the proper videos of how to do all this stuff, not me, because it's quite possibly I'm doing some stuff wrong, but we'll find out down the track, won't we? The motor is pretty well buttoned up, which sort of stuck me in the head, and these guys here. So I had a bit of a call around, and Benny from BCW has kindly loaned me a spring compressor, valve spring compressor. So never done this before, so this should be fun. So that's the plan today. We'll do some valves and have a look at everything and see if it actually we can just do it straight or it needs to do a little bit of work. I don't know, but yeah. I'll play around with this for a little while and see if I can figure it out, and then we'll come back to it. I got the exhaust valve out. There was a lot of carbon, whatever this was running in last, there's a lot of carbon in here. There was a lot of carbon on the exhaust valve. So actually I'll just pull one of these out. Where's my knife? The actual spring diameter is very similar, but as you can see, it's a lot wider wound. So it's stiff, because that's like how you get a stiffer spring. And then we've got these little guys that go on the inside as well. So I also have some valve stem seals which go there. So I've got brand new ones of those, so we might as well put that on. This is the fabled H89 head, which has bigger valves and it has much bigger ports, which you already knew. The valve stem seals are in here, and they fit right. They're quite. These ones actually aren't a bad fit. There's a very small amount of movement in the bush, but yeah, all right. So we might look at changing those out as well. The seats and the valves themselves were a bit sort of grubby. I think they're original. I don't think that this engine has done, it's either been fairly recently sorted or it hasn't done a lot of Ks. Judging by the fact that like the engine itself, you could see the, still see the hone marks, a lot of the cross hatching in the bore, and it's standard size piston. See, it uses a standard size piston. So I figure that it just hasn't done a lot of Ks. Now these quite obviously have been tickled up, the ports, and we matched our inlet manifold to that. What I'm going to do, I'll change those out. What I'm going to do also, I've scraped a lot of the carbon off the valve stems, the valve stem itself. As you can see, I might just give that a little lick with some very fine sandpaper just to clean that up. But I'm thinking about the seat here. That actually looks pretty good, and that's not bad. I dug out the old Trefalex. Once upon a time, I was actually worked at a mechanicking place, and we used to have a little suction cup with a piece of wood, and you used to, you know, do valve it in with valve lapping paste. Well, I don't have any valve lapping paste, but I do have Trefalex, which is the magic cutting compound. This is, God knows, that'd have to be 30 years old. And you see, we didn't use it much. I also have some diamond cutting paste, but I think that's probably a little bit overkill. So my idea is we'll put the valve in and then use the drill on the back of it just slowly and see if we can like get everything nice and seated. I've come to the conclusion that morning coffee is a muscle relaxant of one specific muscle. Anyway, I'll be back. Okay, all better, we're a bit lighter. All right, so passing by the old moulding cupboard, had a bit of a dig around there, and I found this one too, which is a polishing and lapping compound, 280. So we'll get that. I found this one too. No idea what's in that tin. Is there anything written on the lid? That's 600. All right, that's 280. So that must be the same sort of stuff as this, except this is a bit coarser. And the label's just fallen off that one, but it's written on the, it's written on the lid. So we might try a little bit of the 280, eh? It's gonna need a stir up, that's for sure. Because this, as I said, this will have been sitting there for 30 years. So all the cutting compoundy bits will have gone to the bottom. I don't know if you're supposed to use a fine compound or a coarse compound with this. So. Oh, that's a lot finer. All right, so this might be the go. I mean, we're lapping the valves and it says it's a lapping compound, so that should be the go. Now I've lost my valve. Oh no, there it is. Okay, slow speed. All right, let's have a look at that. Yeah, that's better. So it's got a bit of shine on it now. Same as the seat. Well, the seat had a little bit of shine on it, but now it's got a good bit of shine on it. There's a little bit of pitting on the way around there. Not a lot. Looks pretty good, actually. So once again, I don't know. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't really know what we're looking for. Actually, I've got some valve blue somewhere. We could whack that on and see if it's sealing up all the way around, couldn't we? All you gotta do is remember where the hell it is. Alrighty, we're not gonna bother with the stem seals because this head has fairly obviously been serviced recently. Those valve stem seals on there are brand new, so they've done very little work and they're a little bit of a pain in the ass to change. So I am not gonna do it. So we'll just continue plugging away with it, eh? And there is our H89 head, all resplendent with double valve springs. Next bit, of course, is stick it back on the engine after we clean all the old head gasket off first. Whoops, forgot that bit. Time to stick the head on. The head bolts, all right, I've cleaned all of these up on the wire wheel, and there's one of them that's longer than the others, see? That one goes in there because that one's set down. These ones, the thread comes right to the top. That one's the thread set down a little bit, so that's where that one goes. Well, first up, we need to put the head gasket on. All right, make sure that these guys are here. Okay, everything's happy there. Notice how it's got a little bulge on these? That's because the valves are big. You've got to have room for the valves. There's actually, if you look closely, there's a little, like a notch in the head, I think it is. There's a little notch in there. There's a little notch in the head to make room for those valves. So, cool. So what we'll do, we'll drop the head on and then we'll oil up all of these because you need to oil up stuff you're going to torque. Make sure everything's nice and clean and flat. Oh, where are we? That's the front, that's the back. And that should go in like, there we go. Okay. Now, according to Mr. Carby Services, these should all screw down by hand. So if they don't, we've got a little problem somewhere and we'll have to pop the head back off and have a bit of a look at it. Where's my long one? That's that guy there. All right, so if everything's nice and clean, this should just screw down all the way with your fingers. I've all got 12 written on the end of it, except for the long one, which has got 12T. Now, I don't know what 12 stands for, because I haven't actually looked it up. So we haven't really rebuilt this motor. Basically, all we've done is change the cam, the valve springs, and the pistons. So everything's back to however it was, and according to the gentleman I bought it off, it was running fine when he took it out, and it was just after a little bit more power. You know, having owned fast cars in the past, I have to tell you, little underpowered ones are more fun. Because you don't have to worry about it, you just drive them flat to the floor all the time. This should make a bit of a difference though. This little donk here should make a bit of a difference. We're ready to torque this up. So according to Mr. Carburetor Services, the best way is to do it half tight and then go around and do the full torque on it. And there's sort of a couple of ways. I always remembered it from way back when I was working on cars. You do them in a spiral, so start at the end. So you want to squish them outwards, so they sort of go like that and then get pushed down on the ends. So you push them here, you can end up with a head that's that shape. So always start, and the easiest way to do it, where you've got to go across, is just think of it as a spiral, like that. Or you can do it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. But I've always done it as a spiral, like that. All right, now I've just got to look up what the torque setting is. Okay, so the torque for these is 74 Newton meters. So we need 37, look at that, for half. So we'll go around in our spiral sort of deal. And this is just sort of to get it in place to start off with. If you're talking a lot of stuff up, this guy's like we were doing wheels with it, so like 40 bolts per wheel. So when you're doing a lot, it's bloody fabulous. Plus it's very accurate. And I'm not too worried about getting it exact at the moment. I've got a fairly loose calibration on there at the moment, which I might tighten it up when we get to the big one. Okay, that's halfway. All right, let's wind it up. 74. I've got a 5% range on it. We might just change that to a little bit closer. The other thing these have is a memory which you can download, and of every nut and bolt that you've done up. So if you've screwed up and gone real tight, it's there in the memory. So like, this is why you can use these for certifying, you know, oh, you did me head bolts wrong. Wrong, here it is. Yeah. You can label it all and do all that sort of stuff as well. It's a very handy gadget. 74.1, beautiful. 73.3. It's within range, within 1%. So the South African gentleman says, once you've done them all, go around and do them again. They'll probably just click and that'll be it. But yeah, you never know your luck in the big city. So they got just a fraction more on it. See, I don't understand that. When I let go, that was at 73.3. Doesn't make sense. 74.4. All right. That's the head torque down. Next bit is going to be these guys, which we've got to clean up first. And these guys, U-boot push rods. Now, a little bit of oil into each one before we drop them in. The reason you've got to oil everything up is when you start it, there's no oil in it. All right, so it'll only have, the only oil in this is where you oil up all the bearings and oil up all of these things and oil up as much as possible. It doesn't matter if it drips all over the floor, who cares? But yeah, as much oil in there as possible, because when you start it up the very first time, it's got nothing. This stuff is all the old stuff that's been used, so they're probably sort of sorted out for them. We'll put a drop of oil in each one of those, but I think what we need to do now is clean all of the rockers up. So that's the next job. While I think of it too, because we've got our cam lifting everything up here, before you bolt this down, and this has caught me out when I was a young bloke, I had a Datsun 1000 with an A12 in it. Anyway, I changed the head gasket because I treated it like garbage and a chunk came off the side of the piston. Anyway, I redid the head gasket and I just bolted everything down and stripped. This is just an alloy head. And then I had to go and pay to get them all helicoiled. So the trick is you need to undo all of these, back them right off. So when you put them on, there's nothing sort of up against anything. Okay? All right, I'll get to cleaning this. Ew, oily hands on my new camera. Damn. These guys are all been buttoned off and I've cleaned it all up and smoothed everything out. Still a little bit, you know, black, but I haven't put them through a dishwasher or anything. The other thing you need to know about these, it needs to be nice and clean because the oil comes up through the bolt holes and that's what feeds the oil into these guys. All right, so they go here. What do I need to do? I need to put a little bit of oil on these threads here because these need to be torqued up also. Yeah, they need to be torqued up also, not just done up and stripped like I did last time. But you learn these things, you know. Now, soft setting on that guy, I think they're about a 14. Okay, so we'll just go soft setting. Cool. Now we look up our trusty torque setting list. The Datsun 1200 Club. If you've got a Datsun 1200 or a Nissan Sunny Truck or something like this, help this site out. They have the most wonderful wiki that's pretty much anything that you can think of that's been done with a that can be done with a 1200. It's been done and it will be listed, like all the diffs, all the gearboxes, all the bloody everything. What's hot, what's not, what's crap. And it should be on here somewhere. Rocket pedestal, 25 Newton meters. There it is, see? Rocket pedestal, 25 Newton meters. The other thing about having these backed all the way off is that if you've got some pressure like the cam pressure or the valve spring pressure against it, then it will give you a false reading torque-wise, because you're pushing not just down to tighten the bolt up, you're actually pushing against the spring as well. So next thing we've got to do is the valve clearances. I need to get the clearances, which will be on my little sheet there, which we can only do cold clearances straight off the bat. There's not much you can do about it, but we'll have to turn the motor over and start with number 1. And then the firing order is 1324, 1432, 14, I don't know. It'll be on the Datsun 1200 wiki. Okay, there she is, all buttoned up and working as it should. Just went through the valve clearances a few times, but that's 1, 3, 4, and number 2. And if we come around to the mark now, that should be top dead center on number 1. And I've done all my cold clearances. Of course, they've got to be done again when it's hot, but that's good enough. Once again, the Datsun 1200 Club Wiki has come to the rescue. So I had a few people say that what they did was they did their whatever, heated it up, got it up to temperature, redid the timing things, and then waited for it to cool right down and measured it. And we've got a couple of them that are between 0.33 and 0.35. Now I don't have a 0.33, but I do have a 0.35. So that's what they're all set to at the moment. So they should be pretty close. So basically all we need to do, I've got to do something about that because that doesn't fit with what I've got in there at the moment. Coolant temperature is in there. That's the one for the gauge. It's in there. This has got a space for it down here instead. Yeah, so we've got to put a thermostat into it and the thermostat housing, and we'll just put this on to protect it, and we'll fill up all of these with some rag, and she's basically ready to go in, which I'm not looking forward to. We need to still do freeze plug, Welsh plug. That one's fine, that one's all done. This one, the one that came was the wrong size. It was a 40 and we actually need a 35 for that one. So I've got to do that one. I'm going to put a new thermostat in there. The other thing I want to do is put a filter on the return to the radiator, because this did, obviously someone had been running it with water, which is the worst thing ever for engines. And it won't need a great deal of running time because we do have, it's only, basically we've just changed the, in the scheme of things, we haven't changed any of the bearings. They were all really good and they were the ones that came out of it. So as I said, I think this has had a bit of a reco fairly late. You can tell by the head work, you know, it's had a lot of work done to it. All the bearings are fine. There's nothing, I've measured all those up. They are fine. So and if something goes wrong, we'll fix it. It doesn't really matter. I'll put the oil pump in and that'll do us, which is over there. Thanks for watching. I know there's some pretty big A15 fans out there, because that's my biggest viewed video is this motor when I pulled it apart and did all the measurements on it and found out it was actually a really good motor. Except for the only bad thing about it really is the amount of rust and scale in it. So yeah, I need to put a filter on the return line to the radiator so it doesn't block all that up, because it's, with all this sort of moving around, it will have moved some stuff. And there's been plenty, you can see like the rust on the floor here. Yeah, so it should be a fun little thing with a few more horsepower than the old A12. Because the A15, the Datsun guys, the A15 all sort of say they love the A15 for the amount of torque. Now, of course, we put a silly cam in it, which takes torque away and adds power up the top. But I figure it's going to have about the same amount of torque as the A12 now, and then just a shitload more top end. So, thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of Barrel Brothers. I don't know what we're doing on the next one. I might procrastinate. Oh, maybe I'll put this in. Well, we'll never know. We'll have to have a look. Oh, I want to do the spigot bearing too, because the A12, I'll check the one in this. Stick a new spigot bearing in it. It should be good to go. Thanks for watching again. How many times is that? 3? Like and subscribe. I should say that at the start because people just, yeah, we're about 60% of the views that we get are people that are already subscribed, and generally the people right at the end are the subscribers. The other ones have, yeah. It's weird, like when you watch the demographic, because it's the first 50% of the people that's clicked on it has clicked off it in the first 30 seconds. All right, look after yourselves, and we'll see you next time. I keep tapping the reverse on this and it's not reversing. There we go. I've got a new camera. If I go like, oops, nearly lost it. Shouldn't do this stuff one-handed. I need to change hands again on my new gadget. Please excuse this mucking around. As I said, it's a new camera. I got myself an Osmo Pocket 3, which is a wonderful little gadget. I just need to get used to not twisting the stick around like I was doing with the GoPro on the end of a stick. But this also has a microphone, so the sound should be a bit better too. Anyway, swivel it around. I'm tapping the button and nothing's happening. Yeah, I'm just going to take a little bit of practice. Anyway, yeah, the valve stem seals. Oops. How did I do that? Aha! If you press the button 3 times, it swivels. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I like this camera. I need to clean that lens. Anyway, doesn't matter. 74.8. The outside range is 74.7. Give me a break. Well, I don't know. Can you see down that far? Possibly. You see my boot? Yeah, you can. It's a very small screen. Like, give me a break.